I'm just...
Welcome to your awakening. Please take calm as your reality is adjusted.
Avoid legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. You're being recorded!
Oh.
Are you supposed to do that when you're just like walking down the street? Is that to help prevent legal snags? You just walk down the road going, "You're being recorded! You're being recorded!"
Are we live, Cookie? Are we on? Are we...
Well...
I can see, yeah, I can see the record thing there.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we live?
Yeah, well, we're live. Well, this is live. We're live chatting. It's just the same. It's no different.
This was recorded live, and now it's been played back, so it's not live, but it was recorded live. So we were once live, and now we're not live because it's recorded.
But we'll be live
again
soon.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, this is a replacement podcast for the interim period between us getting our fingers out of our proverbials and actually sorting out some live broadcast stuff. I did do a little live broadcast just before we started recording this. It's on my channel at the moment. It's got the title Testes because we were just testing out live broadcast stuff. And now I'm recording this. I'm going to record this now, which is just after that live broadcast. And I'm more likely going to upload it on the next day. So tonight, this evening is Monday, the 12th. I'll try and get this sorted out and upload it to YouTube by tomorrow, the 13th, Tuesday the 13th. And I'll upload it as a premiere. So if we can, if we're available, well, I'll be available, but if the other guys are available as well, we'll be in the chat box when this is broadcasting. Yeah. All things going to plan, but not everything goes to plan.
I've just noticed on your screen, Cookie, it says Reality Chatters. I think that's the name of the room, so I don't know if that appears on the...
It might do.
On the upload. It may do, so... But anyway, this is the Reality Chatters room that was set up on Skype a while back.
Yeah, quite a while ago, as it was that kind of like backup functionality, so that if the Hangouts weren't working, we could still get in touch with each other and organise what we were going to do. But that's the way things are going at the moment, because a lot of the methods that we used to enable this kind of public conversation, or a conversation that's made public or viewable by the public, most of those functions now, most of those methods have been curtailed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's quite synchronistic timing. Maybe I shouldn't say synchronistic, because a lot of this stuff has been done deliberately, so pre-planned rather than synchronistic. It wasn't serendipitous. It was deliberate planning and agendas that have brought us to this point now where you can no longer do that simple but basic click, click, click and have a conversation room, a hangout room being broadcast live to the public. They've now taken that away because they don't want people in general having a publicly viewable conversation about what could be potentially dangerous subjects like conspiracy theories.
I was going to say weaponizing of language. I was watching that Corbett upload the other day, and just mentioned Dr. Rock, if he tunes into this, Nick, who we got back in touch with last week. Maybe we'll get together with him and we'll get something going with him as well, and also join him on his shows, because he does other shows as well, Nick. But he sent me a text saying, have you seen this one? And you derived it, Cam, but I think you did a little talk about conspiracy theories, and when we got back, this upload was there, funnily enough,
synchronistically,
Yeah, conspiracy theorists are domestic terrorists, if you've not seen the upload. And it's very interesting because, yeah, I mean, we'll talk a bit more about it, but yeah, it was interesting how that's all sort of, it's funny how that's in the ether, people are beginning to, like I say, they're weaponizing the language. They're trying to use it as a weapon against us, from questioning anything.
Yeah.
And by using that term conspiracy theorist, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And even linking you to the fact that you might, be a problem in society generally if if you have this way of thinking where you don't agree with what you're being told and all of this stuff. So we're in very sort of interesting times because this document came out from the was it FBI? Yeah, FBI on the 30th of May 2019. So only just recently this was released. And if you see the upload that Corbett has done, you'll go through all the document itself and that, but there's some quite horrific stuff in there, or what I call stuff that would, open floodgates and goes against the First Amendment and everything. Of America, it's in that country, they can just, anyone who speaks out. It's back to the old days, all those. Anyway, Gary, hello, Gary. Are you there? You can hear us.
I mean, it's who makes the laws? The president, Congress, the Senate, or the FBI?
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
At least under Obama, we sort of got the feeling that it was Obama telling the FBI to make the Catholic Church suspected terrorists because they done like abortion. And, I mean, there was another list like this under Obama, wasn't there? And it was a lot of religious people and mostly a lot of Trump supporters as well, militiamen and people like this. They were all on the list, That first touched us on the toes, didn't it?
Yeah, I was just saying you could say it goes back to Baby Bush. I usually refer to him as Baby Bush because he's not the elder George W. Bush. He's a younger Bush who was the president during 9/11. And if you look at that Cass Sunstein paper about conspiracy theories, so I mean, I've got an image of the main quote, which I've shown multiple times before, but hang on, if I can find it, I'll dig it out again. But he wrote a paper talking about how the government, obviously he's working for the American government at the time, so he's referring to the American government primarily, but really this is applicable to the global structure that's been created, that they're trying to make concrete at the moment. I'm just waiting for this image to load and then I'll try screen sharing it, see if it works. The screen share on the Skype isn't great. So it's a limited functionality, but it will do just for a moment or two. And hopefully that's clear enough to be somewhat readable. It's a paper called Conspiracy Theories by Cass R. Sunstein and Adrian the Mule. This is just a clip I took out of the paper because it's the main bit that sort of makes the point. You've got the information in the abstract where he's talking about, right, hang on, but by Israel or the United States, those who subscribe to conspiracy theories may create serious risks, including risks of violence, and the existence of such theories raises significant challenges for policy and law. So this was a consultation paper for them to then start making legislation based on. You see, this was released in 2008, but as I say, really it goes back to the regime of Baby Bush, when after 9/11, obviously there was a lot of conspiracy theory. I mean, he quotes it in the abstract there, the attacks of 9/11. So this is like a resurgence of what they did in the 60s, I think it was 67. I remember when I was doing that little talk, I couldn't remember at the time what year it was, but I think it was 67, when they started using the conspiracy theorist phrase as a derogatory term to stop people questioning the official narrative about the Kennedy assassination. And now, what's going on at the moment is a resurgence of that same propaganda methodology. They're trying to put that phrase back into people's minds as I refer to it as an incantation. when somebody says that to you, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, it's meant to stop all conversation, to stop thinking. They want you to stop questioning. They want you to just shut up and obey what the authorities are telling you and just accept what they're telling you as being the truth, as being factual reality.
Is it Mueller who's the head of the FBI? Or the latest head of the FBI. I mean, I can just picture him like the guy from, sorry about the bus, the guy from the airplane film, yeah?
Oh, Leslie Nielsen.
The air traffic controller, yeah?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
The FBI guy is sitting there with his bag of glue. Oh, we just told everybody that conspiracy theorists are terrorists. Looks like we picked the wrong week with the Epstein story coming out.
I was just thinking the same thing, mate. It's one thing that I haven't heard anybody mention the connection yet. But I was thinking the same thing over the last few days. The amount of mainstream media commentary that there's been over the Epstein event, which included some general commentary about, oh, conspiracy theories are rife on the internet about Jeffrey Epstein's death, you know. So what are they actually planning to do here? Because last week...
They're coming for your cookie. They're coming.
Yeah, they've got my number. Last week, they put out this stuff about how conspiracy theorist means you're a domestic terrorist. And now this week, we've got mainstream news anchors saying things like conspiracy theories are rife on the internet and I'm not certain about what happened allegedly. So are these news presenters now domestic terrorists?
Well,
maybe the timing is very deliberate because they're planning in the next week or two, in the coming days, to crack down on the information about the Jeffrey Epstein case by referring to this new resurgence of the conspiracy theory label.
Yeah, again, diverting attention away, so that sort of stuff just, as we know, is going on right now. And Epstein is just as we said with Savile back in the day, he's just one little node in a big ring, you know, in a larger network, sorry. And, you know, his so-called suicide, whatever I did say, it's a good, in a way, you know, it's saying, you know, good, you know, you're that bad. Well, that's what you should do. Off yourself. If you're not evil, you're abusing, sexually abuse, you're paedophile, good, you know, go away. You know, if you can't sort it out and you feel the need to continually abuse other human beings and emotionally, sexually, whatever, for the rest of their lives and fuck up their families, and it's a ripple effect, as you know, with this sort of stuff. Fuck up society generally. You know, good. You know, go away. I don't care if he's on an island or he is dead. He's gone. And it does point out the fact that, you know, people should start to relook at this sort of stuff again and not just take this kind of, you know, the sort of the initial sort of surge and then it drops off. You know, like we saw with Savile and things like that. People should still speak out against all this sort of stuff and still be allowed to. And there's something drastically wrong. You know, it's satanic in its sort of nature that a system denies you to talk about and to reveal these people and to say, look, this is going on. And it's the politics, the entertainment world. It's this very structure of society, as you mentioned before. That sort of, it's almost like it's everywhere. It's all over, and it's certainly at the top.
Yeah.
And
I know it's not a nice thing to hear.
No.
Because it can make people quite despondent into thinking that you can't do anything about it. And as we know, the system loves that despondency. They want people to feel powerless. They want people to think that the system itself is all powerful, that these people are in charge and in control of everything.
Yeah.
But that's not reality. Yeah? But the reality of the situation around paedophilia is that you will never ever truly be rid of it until you deal with that structure of authority. Because the structure of authority relies on the use of paedophilia to control the people in the higher reach and the higher echelons of the pyramid.
Yeah.
So while you still got that pyramidal structure of authority control trickle down bullshit, there will always be paedophilia. You will never truly be rid of it until you address some other way of, you know, having society without that pyramid bullshit.
Yeah. Pedophilia is like Sauron's tower in the middle of Mordor. You're not going to bring it down, and you're not Frodo.
Yeah.
None of us are. I mean, it's that outside wall is the only place you're going to get to it eventually by going through that, because the tower they've shown you, they just closed all the windows and doors after they threw Jeffrey Epstein out.
Yeah.
That tower's still there, and it's gonna stand to the end, because it is the end of them if that falls.
That's why I think as well. I mentioned it when I did the little live blurb. They really, really want people to accept the story that it was suicide, because if it wasn't suicide, then what's the next question? The next question is who murdered him? And obviously people want to know details of who exactly, like it's a court case or a spy drama or whatever. But the point is, if you accept that somebody else killed him, that it wasn't suicide, if you make that realization that the likelihood of it being suicide is just bunkum, it's just ridiculous, then that means you are tacitly accepting that there is a reality to all these so-called conspiracy theories about there being an institutionalized ring, a network that utilizes paedophilia to blackmail and control people in power. Whether he was murdered or taken away somewhere else or whatever, that's just details. The reality is, if you can realize that it wasn't suicide, then all the other shit falls into place. Just like 9/11. When you can realize that there is no way 3 towers fell on the same day because 2 planes hit 2 of those towers carrying kerosene fuel, which is basically all jet fuel is, that cannot, according to the laws of physics and according to all experimentation that proves that fact of physics, cannot melt steel. When you start making those realizations, then the whole dirty can of worms starts opening up, and you're far away from that deluded obedience to the official story. And the same with this. I think that's why the mainstream media over the last day or so has just been saturated with the headline of suicide, 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 because they need people to accept that.
I think more and more. You've never got the idea. Like I saw the thing about a guy that went into a shopping mall, killed about 8 people because I hate Mexicans. Yeah. Do you ever get the feeling that you've got like the Democrat and Republicans actually making up their own false flags? The Democrats will do one that the Republicans don't actually know about. And so the Republican answers to it aren't as slick as they could be, because they're literally taking each other by surprise. But the one thing they can't do is say, oh, this was the Democrats, they just did a false flag. They can never let that cat out of the bag, because an event like 9/11, they was all in on it. Yeah, they all knew it.
Yeah.
But then as things go forward, they start running their own little ops against each other.
That's the franchise of the smoke and mirrors, though, isn't it? It's like all the different secret societies. Yeah, the spiders versus the owls, that kind of thing. If they can get you to accept that, oh, it was done by the Democrats or it was done by the Republicans because it's just for political maneuvering and shit, then you're back in that left-right fucking dualistic bullshit of the political game. Like you said, they were all in on 9/11. They had to be. It wasn't Republicans or Democrats, Conservative or Labour, one side or the other. It was a whole bunch of them.
Left and right wing paradigm. Yeah, how many times have we mentioned that one? And still people don't kind of get it or don't see it. I know some of my friends still are struggling with it and still think it's a great system and you should vote and blah, 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 blah. But look, I think the way the system has gone and the way people are now sort of, if you like, beginning, I think, to question more, and that's why they're doing all this stuff with the FBI, these conspiracy stuff, because people are beginning to get it, understand things better. And it's not because of the internet, it's just generally in themselves, because people are, there's a shift of energy happening, if you don't realize it. It's always moving, but we're also moving into this, we talk about the sun activity and stuff, but that's affecting us here as well, and how we are, behaving and how we are as people. And I think we are sort of beginning to understand more and more about ourselves. It's slowly, it's a grassroots at the moment, but it is building, it's getting there. but they've always got some kind of psyop or thing which we've seen over the last 10 years or so. We've been doing this sort of stuff, where they'll come out with something to kind of derail you and put you off, whatever it may be, flat Earth, whatever, anything they will throw in there to dampen that down, to stop that awakening, to stop you from really going further with investigation or curiosity. Like, we are curious beings. That's how we've built the world we've built. It's
intrinsic. I think it's intrinsic to mankind.
Yeah.
Curiosity is that need to explore, and explore doesn't just mean walking through geographical locations that you've not been before. Explore also means the inside of your own mind.
Yeah,
so it's coming up with creative ideas.
Dealing with issues you have, dealing with problems you have, anger issues, whatever they may be. Dealing with that, getting yourself back on track, getting yourself back into alignment correctly, and then you can deal with the world better once you've sorted yourself out. That's the old saying, isn't it? It starts with you, and that's true. It's simple stuff, and it's still people are not paying attention to that enough and not dealing with the ego side of themselves. Watching a really good clip of from a movie called Revolver. Have you seen that film? Yeah, and there's a 10-minute clip in it which describes the ego very well, and I know that's been mentioned a few over the years by other people, but go and look at that 10-minute clip. It's on YouTube, and it describes very well the ego in people. It's a 10-minute clip, and watch it all the way through, right from the start to the end. Don't think, this is a load of whatever crap. Watch it. Yeah, because I know attention spans are, difficult these days with people. They get 2 minutes and then go, oh, fuck off. No, watch the whole 10 minutes. You can manage that. And for people who are struggling with things like that, it's certainly a good thing to watch and remind yourself of just what your ego is. Yeah, because people don't even understand what it is, and that literally tells you in a graphical, in a way that is understandable. If you can think about what the clip, you can think of it, which I'm sure the audience can. But it's a good clip to watch. Just to remind people, because that's the problem as well. People aren't dealing with those inner demons, like you say, those inner problems, those inner things. Some way stem way back. It's a way back thing. It could be even, it could even be past life stuff. But in this current life, there are lots of problems that people do have stemming right way back from children upwards, and nurture and everything else has a play on it. But
I was thinking earlier on when you say going way back. This is right, Pete. Yeah, because I was thinking now, sort of say reading books. Yeah, people are doing that a few hundred years, and the cultural habit of reading a book is almost like a piece of RNA that is passed on from person to person to person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then over time, the body can accept RNA and rewrite its own DNA. And I'm thinking of things like cooking meat. Yeah. Instead of eating it raw. It takes 1,000 generations, and your stomach is different. It produces different enzymes. It's adapted. So to force that adaptation, you have to have a cultural habit that will be repeated by word of mouth, because there's no physical need for eating cooked meat for 1,000 generations until it suddenly clicked. So it's like a piece of RNA. It's not actual DNA, but a cultural habit is like a piece of RNA.
Well, the main thing that's caused all the problems, I suppose. I was watching a documentary the other day, and it's basically language, isn't it? When language was introduced, because way back in the day we were telepathic to a certain. We didn't have language. Way back, I suppose we would communicate in that telepathic way, and then language was introduced. I was watching something about the Druids. It was interesting. The last Druid, he was called, this Irish guy. I can't remember his name now. He died back in 1996. And he was almost saying what we've said and others say about how the history was changed, and the way the Druidic sort of order was sort of mixed with the Christian order back in the day, and how everything was manipulated, and they
Disneyfied.
Disneyfied, and he told you about the story of Ireland, which is there's a whole chunk of history missing in that one, and there's all kinds of rewriting and stuff going on. So it was an interesting documentary. And it was made back in because that would have been, the actual documentary itself would have been probably something like late 80s or early 90s, or something like that. But he died in 96, it said on the thing. So, yeah, interesting stuff. And it's history that's being taken away, and it's not, people do continually still accept official narratives of historical, past historical stuff, which is all being, you know, it's not. You go look at it properly and look at the like. You look at your indigenous stuff where you live. For instance, I'm in Wales, and most Welsh people haven't got. They've been. The actual true Welsh history. Most people that don't get it. They don't know it. They just think. The castles are the great ones that were built by the invaders, and they don't understand what went on. And if you don't understand your history, where you're coming from, you don't really have a good a good balance, if you like, to go forward, because you don't know where you're coming from. You're just confused all the time, and people just need to go and look at their history properly. And I mean properly, not just like I say, the official versions, the narrative versions, or the historical stuff. Go back, and there's plenty of references we give on these chats over the years of stuff and stuff to look at. Think a bit more. They are not telling us everything anyway. They know a lot more than they'll say. It's interesting when they shut down ancient sites, and I mean shut them down is and put a World Heritage site stamp on it. Yeah, that's like shutting down the site almost, because it allows no more digging, no more, revealing of anything more, like Göbekli Tepe, which we've mentioned loads of times. Yeah,
freezes it in time.
Yeah, and same at Avebury in the UK. The stone circle there that has World Heritage site. So anything that has these sorts of things, if they're shutting down any more discovery, any more things, and interesting enough on Salisbury Plain, which I've mentioned, that's an army base, and there's loads of stuff on there that is again revealing more about our ancient past, which they still just, it's like they just don't want that in the mainstream. They just want that kept to one side. So you've got to go and do looking and searching, but it's worth it in the end when you actually start to understand it and you put the pieces together in your own mind. That's part of your, if you like, awakening as well.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of things people I think would benefit from if they just look back and looked at things like that a bit more in a bit more detail.
What you've both been saying, what Gary was saying about the kind of RNA example or metaphor, you think that epigenetics and the effect that I think it's a good way of explaining the effect on society of mass culture. So the culture that they're giving us is that environment, as like Gary was describing it, as like learning of our bodies adapting to eat cooked meat. They're saturating us in a certain kind of cultural environment because they're hoping that in an epigenetic fashion will cause us to change our habits, our lifestyles to suit what they want, that technocratic one world system. So I've talked about it before. To me, it seems as if they're trying to get people to adapt to living in an artificial environment, most likely for when they start shooting us off into the stars. Because, a spaceship is not a planet. A spaceship is not the Earth. So for our biological and psychological beings, it is going to be something completely alien that we would have to adapt into. Yeah, it's not just like being in an enclosed room with a filtered air system like you're in a submarine or something. Nah, there's a hell of a lot more to it than that, because you're beyond the Earth's magnetosphere, the Earth's biosphere, etc., etc., etc.
It actually keeps you alive. That keeps you alive,
yeah.
That as well here. If you leave that atmosphere, you will quickly deteriorate.
Yeah.
If you're not right.
Element of cultural influence, the modern societal culture. That's why I said Disneyfied when you were talking about the Druids.
Yeah.
Because most of what most people know, the sort of general education level of the populace, has this Disneyfied view of who the Druids were and what they did. Yeah, and that includes various religious taint as well, because obviously they were bad guys because they were pagans or they were heretics, they were pre-Christian era and all that kind of shit. Yeah? But it's this Disneyfied view of them. And that's just one tiny little example of the cultural saturation that we get, that is trying to steer the mass of the populace, the public consciousness, in certain directions. Now, apply that to what we're experiencing at the moment, where the movement of information and public discourse, in other words, you having the ability to just chat with whoever you choose to chat with, yeah, that is being curtailed, that is being restricted. They're putting in more and more roadblocks, basically. And the current upsurge of censorship even more so amplifies that. They
taken,
want
yeah.
they
Go
want
on.
people to go in a very certain direction. Most of their excuses are that the reason you're not allowed to talk about certain subjects or certain people or whatever is because it could lead to terrorism. It could lead to that kind of problem that we're suffering from at the moment, you know. And I would just point a finger at, look into a lot of the stuff to do with the terrorist events, and you find that if not all of them, certainly the vast majority of them are either fabricated or manipulated in some fashion to serve some political agenda. So there is not a genuine, organic outburst of terrorism within the last few years. All this stuff has been deliberately amplified. So their justification is that you can't talk about so-and-so because, like conspiracy theories, that means it's going to lead people to go off and commit acts of terrorism. It's like, no, the reality is that it would destabilise your claims to authority and to the order that you are imposing on the rest of us. That's what they're trying to curtail. And that the reason I wanted to mention that is that, as you're describing, that's that upsurge of energy that people are feeling, that the world is changing, we are changing, the way we live is changing, the way we interact with each other is changing. So those people who've sat on top of that pyramid for so long don't want us to do our own thing. They want us to put all our energy into what they want, the structure they're trying to build.
I think one of the reasons things is changing is, I think, not so much Peter, but that Druid guy, then when he was talking, there's one thing he got wrong, and that is using the word telepathy. I think you've got to not use that word, because what we're talking about
Yeah.
more a super empathy, like you know, a close brother or family member, and just one look of the eyes between you can speak volumes.
Yeah,
because
you
you're
can
all,
sense each other's energy. You are immersed in each other's energy.
and that is what people are rediscovering, I think.
Yeah.
So when this Druid says that, oh, in the ancient days everybody was telepathic and now they're all going mad. No, people are rediscovering that empathy, not telepathy, empathy.
Yeah. That's something, possibly, again, is something that's been, I use the word Disneyfied again. The concept of telepathy has been Disneyfied to equal a certain definition, and that definition is that I sit here and I go do 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 do, and I can read your thoughts as if I'm reading text on a page. Whereas I think real telepathy is not like that. It's more instinctual, it's more empathic, it's more visual in the sense of the imagery you get in your head. It's not words per se. It's just like you're describing. You know somebody, you feel you know them so well that just with a glance you can sort of predict what they're asking of you without them saying a word.
Which leads us nicely into Elon Musk, doesn't
it? That's a bit of a phrase. That leads nicely into Elon Musk. I'm just going to ease in here, dear.
I was just going to add to that. There's just sucking out your spirit. You know, they're trying to, with what you said before, what they're trying to attempt us to do, like take us down that other route en masse, like you say, with all the bullshit and all the techno gadgetry dark stuff, and the fact that the mainstream media continually, it's funny, you know, more apologies, you know, for social media, from social media giants again, about collecting your personal data and selling it to their third-party interests. Oh, we're really sorry. It's like, you know, how many stories have we heard like that over the past few years, Cookie and Gary? Loads, haven't we? Yeah. Absolutely loads of stories like that. So people are just accepting and okay with it seems, but willingly giving all of their stuff to them so they can fire back at them, like you're saying, the perfect recipe to take them down that road. You know, because they know what they're thinking. They use the Cambridge Analytica kind of shit and all the rest of it, and lots of other stuff as well. Not just that. That's just scraping the surface of what these guys are doing.
Let me just describe this as a question, just something to think about. Think about the contradiction involved, and this is an inversion tactic that they use deliberately. But I'll just try and describe what I'm trying to say. Think of the contradiction involved with a society that insists that the general majority accept that everything is materialism. Yeah, they push this dominance of materialism, that everything is just purely material, you know, the physical that can be weighed and measured and quantified, etc. Yet at the same time, they're pushing the mass of society to have an acceptance that their virtualized existence has more relevance and value than their real material existence. So in other words, they're putting out this cultural saturation that encourages people to get so absorbed in their virtual existence, to put more belief and energy and intention into their little digital avatar than their real physical selves, yet at the same time they keep insisting that everything is pure materialism. Well, how do you deal with that contradiction? Yeah, the system's telling you two different things at the same time. One is a direct statement to claim of authority in terms of the information knowledge that materialism, yeah, they say they know absolutely that everything is purely material, yet at the same time they're constantly saturating us with this message of like, oh, your virtual existence is everything you need. You can do everything online. Have you been on Facebook recently? Have you updated your avatar? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes, and the lack of pen and paper in the workplace is interesting. You know how that, taking away all those, like I've said before, writing and pen and paper.
Yeah. Reducing your skills at communication,
yeah.
and also reducing the lexicon of your language, your knowledge of the language that you use, so that therefore it affects what you can actually think of.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you start taking words out of the language, then you stunt the thoughts that people have.
Well,
That's Orwellian 101.
I'll tell you something. I remember one of the first times I actually learnt to disconnect from my eyes. Yeah? And this came to a high point once when I was on a bench in a park in France, yeah? I literally disconnected, like in a meditative state, from my eyes, from looking at things around me, and my eyes kept going. They kept looking. They just kept darting around, picking up a new thing to look at. And I'm literally watching my visual system on automatic. And it's just always looking for something that's moving, looking for something. And that is a focal point. Yeah, that is a material existence. People in that state feel, something material. So when you go in the virtual world, if your ears and eyes are at full maximum capacity, you're not thinking. You talk about the virtual world as if it's a place of thought and contemplation. No, it's still you having that physical metabolism with your eyes being taken care of and hypnotized to sleep with something to look at, your ears with something to hear. So that's how it is, materialism.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It reinforces the material metabolism. So what it isn't is sitting back and contemplating, trying to, switch off and think about things. That's what it's not. Definitely. Yeah. Did you see the True Stream Media about Elon Musk?
Yes.
No.
He's giving this lecture where he's laughing, man, really, like he's been with Joe Rogan. Yeah,
it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, Joe Rogan pre-show. He's giggling like somebody who's just had a joint. And he's talking about putting wires in people's brains. Yeah? Just like the Matrix. Yeah?
Elon's saying this, is he?
Elon Musk, yeah. And oh man, it's the punchline to a joke that he started a year ago with artificial intelligence is going to kill us. The only way to survive it is for us to become the artificial intelligence.
And buy my products. Yeah.
Which again is a contradiction in itself, because you've got the two separate things. You've got AI and you've got you. If AI is going to destroy you, but you claim, this is Elon's argument, this is how fucking ridiculous his logic is. He claims that the only way you'll survive is by merging with the AI, but that means you, as you were, has been destroyed. So in other words, the AI has still won. It's destroyed you.
Yeah, maybe completely destroyed, because he is referencing the film Transcendence.
Yeah.
And I went and watched it after his lecture. And I thought, Jesus Christ, man, this is terrible. A guy links up with the artificial intelligence, and then nobody can tell whether he's still there or not. Is this the artificial intelligence just pretending to be the guy that died and had himself uploaded? Yeah, and you never really can tell right until the end of the film, yeah? even then, yeah, I think it kind of tells you that the guy went off with his wife, and they found a little sort of somewhere where he can download his consciousness, yeah, and hide out. But is it even him? Because it would serve the purposes of the artificial intelligence to keep on pretending to be who it's not. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's just leave the whole subject alone, Elon. Yeah,
Well, it's one of the.
stick with your red space race.
I've seen that there are some people that have looked into this kind of question, and this has been going on for quite a while, because there's actually a sub branch of philosophy that deals purely with AI. So in other words, it's using philosophy to ask questions about what constitutes an AI, what would it be able to do, would it think the same as us, etc., etc. And that brings up the question of, well, one of the things that holds true about human beings, about mankind, is that at a certain point during our development, usually in early childhood, around 2, 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old for some children, we all learn the art of deception. All of us. It just seems to be something that we need within this reality. Doesn't mean it's you're going to use it for good or anything like that. It just means you learn how you can manipulate other people primarily, but your environment as well, but mainly to the other people. You can manipulate them by deceiving them to get what you want. Yeah, so the classic thing is the kid who lies about taking the cookies out the cookie jar, or the kid who tells the mum that dad said it was okay for them to go and play at their mate's house for the next several hours and not be home till after dark. Well, yeah, lying to one so that the other agrees. We all learn to deceive. Then we get the choice of whether we do or not. Yeah, that's the real crux of it. But my point in terms of the reference of AI, very few people in the general populace, as I said, in the sub-branch of certain academic studies, these questions are asked, but they're not generally talked about to most of the public. Yeah, but the question of, well, if they claim, like people like Kurzweil claim that at some point, Kurzweil and Musk and whatever claim that at some point an AI will be developed that will be a true independent sentience similar to our own experience of life, then surely that means at some point in its development it's going to learn to deceive. So therefore you're going to have this super powerful computer AI that's got its tentacles into all this information stream that knows how to deceive. And that one film, that storyline is a good example of that, but it really does bring home that question of, well, if these things are going to be so good at calculating thought processes, then that means they're going to be the ultimate liar, because they're going to learn every method through their access to data. They're going to learn every method of how to lie, how to deceive, how to manipulate people. It's going to be like Derren Brown times 1,000, you know?
We wait for the switch on. Yeah, when it's switched on. Yeah.
Most people have been given this fear of the kind of Terminator AI. The kind of AI that just as soon as they turn it on, it'll go, oh, human beings are evil, destroy all human beings. I don't think that's the way it's going to play out at all. This is going to be a creeping assimilation where the AI will deceive one person, then a group of people, then a mass of people until it absorbs them into its belief system of one form or another. It's going to take over by deception, not by force of arms.
Yeah. Demolition Man.
Yeah.
All the movies, all those Hollywood films, Cookie, that have been pumping out for decades now. Let's say since the 80s, I'd say, or even before then. But it's certainly a lot more. You know, that sort of theme. That sort of theme is running all the way through these sci-fis and dystopian futures, and
it fuels the hunter-warrior archetype.
Yeah,
I know, because when I was a kid, this was part of what attracted me to sci-fi stories and stuff like that, because it was like, daring adventure stories. It was the one guy or a small group of people versus the evil empire, like the Federation in Star Wars. It's that kind of archetypal manipulation. The majority of those storylines are they're feeding that need in people, because in our modern society, most people are not in a subsistence lifestyle. They're not having to go out and hunt food. They're not having to fight for survival. So the system knows that psychological need is there in people. It can be fed and it can be utilized to manipulate them. So they give us these storylines that fuel that sensation. So the sci-fi story about the kind of robot takeover, almost always guaranteed, is the kind of storyline where it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a force of arms. You know, the guy like fucking Schwarzenegger or whatever has to fight the robots and actually beat them down and destroy them and all that kind of Hunter Warrior shit, yeah? Whereas the reality is, I think one of the recent films, I know we've talked about this one before because it's relevant in this sense, and I think it's one of the best and possibly least known movies of recent years that has got a really good storyline twist that makes this point quite distinctly. It's called Upgrade, and that's more likely what's going to happen. It's not going to be force of arms. It's going to be incremental creeping deception that gradually absorbs everything that you thought you were about reality.
Though you will be begging for it, like we want more of it, we want to take it on. But just like with all this stuff we see now with body enhancements and people going crazy with that kind of stuff, you know, in the beauty world or whatever, and the, you know, people want to constantly change themselves or look young continually. That kind of, you know, society, we're going to see it. It's going to be like one of them Terry Gilliam movies, like Brazil or something. You know, it's going to be that kind of, you know, hideous society where, you know, even the dogs' arses are sellotaped up so they don't shit on the street. You know, it's getting to that, you know, level now, and people are willingly going to turn up for these body enhancements or things like that. It's just going to be, like you say, a takeover, like they're doing with the, I suppose, with the virtualization or the internet. You know, where everything is happening on this virtual environment. This, you know, we're not face to face. They always say face to face is where you do your best work. You know, with people in groups. You cannot do it on here. This is okay. This gets people going, but I think when you get together in proper areas, groups, whatever, like the sort of things we went to recently, that kind of thing, you know, that's where it really makes the difference, and you can feel it. You know, if everybody's on side, everybody's on the same page, everybody's, you know, thinking the same way, or not quite as maybe knowledgeable as others, but, you know, they're on the same, you know, energy. You know, they want, you know, they're good people, you know, and they're seeing it. And this is face to face. I mean, the online world, unfortunately, as we've seen over the past 10 years, is trying to destroy that. All the groups, all the getting togethers, the idiots that come in, the trolls, all the rest of it. We've seen that over the past decade or so, trying to destroy that connection. So, but for me, it's always important, get your connections on here and get together and organise your stuff. But it's in real life, out there, you know, in the real world, where we do our work, where we do our best work, you know, in that sense. That's where we change things, you know. We're never going to do it. We're never going to do it on the internet. We'll go out there and do it in person. It helps the internet. It's a tool, like you've always said. It helps, but it's not going to be the be-all and end-all. We've got to do it in the real world.
Can I add something to that as well?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
It's just because of the time we've had on this platform and the kind of encounters we've had with people over the years and stuff like that. I just feel it needs to be said repeatedly, because the mainstream doesn't say this kind of stuff deliberately, because, you know, they don't want people to think clearly for themselves. But absolutely agree with you. We need to be talking face to face to people and getting involved in stuff and participating. But that choice is yours. Yeah, you don't have to join every group that you see. You don't have to participate in every scheme that's happening, you know, that kind of stuff. I know it sounds just like, why are you even bothering to say that? That should be obvious, but it seems in these climates it's not obvious to people. There is such a sense of peer pressure, social pressure, and this is fed by the system. This is deliberately put out there and fed by the system. As a simple example, think of Extinction Rebellion. Yeah, a lot of people feel a pressure, a peer pressure, a social pressure, that they have to participate in this saving the planet scheme that's now doing the rounds called Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is that, like, absolutely, I agree with you that working in groups and getting together with people and doing things directly face to face, etc., is exactly the way we need to go. Yeah, because that's decentralizing away from the control of the authority structure bullshit. But at the same time, people have to remember, think for yourself and do your own due diligence and decide for yourself after consideration whether you're going to get involved in something, because you're not I don't want people to feel like they're being forced in a certain direction. Everything has to be done by choice, by free will choice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The atmosphere at the moment is such that there is so much pressure on people to, like, oh, you've got to join this particular group, or you're not really in the know until you subscribe to this newsletter. All this kind of attitude, tribalistic attitude. There isn't multiple tribes. There's one tribe, all of us. Yeah, and there's differences between us, but the differences between us are part of the diversity that gives us the amazing ability to do various things that we do. And I'm not talking about ethnic diversity, political correct bullshit. Yeah, I just feel it needs to be said when we're talking about this kind of stuff, because I get that impression from a lot of people. They feel a kind of guilt effect, like, oh, I'll just join in with you because I don't know what else to do, but I feel this immense pressure that I have to do something, so therefore I'm going to do this.
Well, that's the work. Well, that thing, that's what we talked about before. That links into work on yourself. You know? Work on yourself as first. Before you do anything. Get yourself right. Do some meditation. Do something that relaxes your mind. Do something that is good and wholesome and good for you, not something that's going to just fry your brains with fucking mainstream or TV and all that stuff. Do something better. And then you'll feel that you can handle when the inner world calms down and you get yourself a bit more relaxed. You can maybe deal with the outside one a bit better. And you won't respond and be angry and all the rest, because that's what they want. Angry people. Always remember that. They want you fucking shaking your fist and kicking in the doors. A calm, person, or someone who knows the score, and groups of millions of them, they can't deal with that. You just don't respond. It's non-compromise. It's all that stuff. It's, we talked about this over the years of stuff we've been doing, chats online and stuff. It's all about that. And, when people start getting over the angry phases of life and that, and I know it's not easy. Everyone's got a fucking tough shit to deal with. But if you have the opportunity to do it, do it. Take that, think a bit. I don't know. It's just getting back to yourself again, getting back to you, and that's what they've taken away. They've taken you away. They've taken you down rabbit holes. They've taken you all over the fucking place. I'm not saying you, Cook. I'm just saying generally people. They've taken people away from themselves, down the mainstream, down everything else, and whatever. And that's the problem. Yeah, the separation thing, and that's so. Like I say, we talk about the energy. How your, where energy, well, where your attention flows, energy goes, or whatever is the saying, I think. And that's exactly true. So you're distracted an awful lot these days. Well, forever really. But as soon as you start seeing those distractions and how they bring them round and how they try and then, put the programming into you, because we've all been programmed up to a point, haven't we? We've all got those set little things we still sometimes like doing, or whatever it is. If they're, whatever. Sometimes you think, okay, I'll chill out and watch a football game or something like that. But it's just whatever your thing is. But yeah, anyway, I'm waffling. I'm losing my point now. I don't know what my point was. What was my point?
What you were saying about get back to yourself, work on yourself first.
Yeah, exactly. The work on you, and it's important. And however you do that, wherever you look into that, whatever there's lots of things out there, but be careful of new age spiritual traps. That's the other thing I was going to caveat and say, beware of, going into that sort of, I read a book and whatever, blah, blah. It's good to just, do your own thing, what makes you feel better. You might be even reading a book. It could be watching telly for half an hour, whatever it is, just relax and get your mind together and think about things and calm down, because they always want us in a state of stress and, worry and fear. Underlying fear of, you paying the bills, whatever it may be, it's always there in the background, and that's the thing that's what holds us back. That's the blockages that's not helping us to move forward.
What is John?
Sorry. Just want to say, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, how many more opportunities will become apparent to you once you start working on yourself. Because one of
Absolutely.
the effects of that delusion of separation is that it leads you into a darker and darker place, that you think there is no hope, there is no way you can do anything, there is no power, etc.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
you get back to yourself and you start to realise that, hang on, I could do this, I could do that, or there's this stuff available on, that will help me be self-sufficient or whatever else. There's lots of opportunities out there. There's lots of possibilities. But that sense, that delusion of separation makes people very blinkered, so they don't notice all those
Well,
opportunities.
I would advise anybody to read some Emancipate, because what you described there, that oh, I can't do anything, I can't make any change, that's
Yeah,
the negative emotion of despair.
yeah,
And I was
Yeah.
thinking about this. We could go into that girl that's become a kind of manga thing, but maybe on Wednesday would be better, because it looks like we might have a better thing. Because that string yard is actually up, and I've seen it working now. Yeah,
Oh
and it
yeah,
yeah.
looks. It seems like you can screen share and have multiple people in the room and shove that through to YouTube. But what I was also going to say is, as we're growing up and we're developing our different personalities, some of them are really childish. Because when you was 3 years old, you could cry and somebody'd come and take care of you. Well, that is the basis of where we learn self-pity. Yeah. So you're 16-year-old, you haven't got a job, you're in a house on your own. Oh, I haven't got a job. Oh, I'm feeling sorry for myself. But nobody comes to help you. And after 5 minutes, you're like the baby that's crying and then looks around and nobody's come and thought, oh, well, fuck that. That's what a self-pity jag is. And Ouspensky might help you understand these things, where they came from, what they look like. And these are little parts of your personality that you can get rid of. You can say, well, I'm going to stop doing that. That's not good.
But it's this learned helplessness thing I want to talk about as well. That's played a part, with the mental health and how they've structured society now to be this kind of, helpless. And even Alexa has to come and save you now to tell you the answer. It's
Well,
like you can't even sort out, your relationship, whatever. It's getting crazy. It's like we're relying on this to such a degree. It's dumbing
yeah, but
everybody down, like we say. Sorry, Gary, go on.
well, you call it learned helplessness, but what I'm
Mm.
telling you, learned helplessness is probably one of the names that Rumpelstiltskin is hiding behind. If
Mm.
you could feel that learned helplessness, what it actually feels like, find its name, and then you've got a handle on it. Then you can deal with it. Is it frustration? It's learned helplessness. What is the negative emotion that it puts you into? Because that's what they're doing, the television, they make you
Yeah,
feel a bit
exactly.
scared.
Yeah.
You want to feel self-pity. They make
Mm.
you want to feel frustration. And they're feeding those negative emotions to you, which is switching you from one personality to another. If you can understand what those personalities are that they're trying to put you into, it's easier to resist it because you've got the name of it. You can say, no, I'm not getting in the self-pity
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're poor, aren't you? You visit the food bank. No self-pity for me today, thank you. Yeah, this is how you can be if you know what button they're trying to push inside you. They know that.
I was just going to say, just to change it. We're coming up to an hour, Cookie, I think. We
yeah.
just started.
I've just looked at the clock. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of the upload, how long you wanted to do it
Yeah.
for.
Well, it's a good point to leave it there. We've
Okay.
covered quite a bit of ground, and we mentioned the Epstein stuff, but we danced around it, and talked about some other more interesting stuff than just that charade. So I think it's a good place to leave it there. That will come up to about an hour by the time we've finished.
One last thing with
Yeah,
Elon Musk and the True Stream Media video is called "This Will Not Make You a God or a Superhero," talking about the AI emplacements.
Yeah.
But this Elon Musk, oh, we need to be better, we need to be faster. This is often coming from the same kind of people that keep putting up Facebook posts of a video guy, hang gliding right across the top of the mountains, or somebody doing backflips on the water skiing. People can already do these things. What do they need enhancement for? The human being, given its full potential, is an incredible machine, capable of incredible things. It doesn't need enhancement. It just needs the right environment
And the right
encouragement.
and the right knowledge and information.
Mm.
yeah,
And once
Yeah.
you have that, then you know who you are.
yeah. Good point. Right. Well, let's leave it as that. This has been a replacement podcast for Sol Excalibre that should have been on the 12th. This will probably go up on the 13th. Little spider come to visit me. Hello, mate. Don't get stuck there. On you go. It's only a little one, like a little money spider or something. But anyway, that was an interesting synchronicity. Just as we're wrapping up, little spider comes to say hello. Where's the elm? That's the next question. Maybe that's me with my glasses. Anyway, before I waffle, leave it at that. Thanks again, folks. We'll be back again soon. Hopefully, we'll have live stream sorted out. If not, it'll be something like this. So we'll chat again soon. Take care. Thanks for joining in, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Click the stop recording.